and welcome to Cluesy, and thank you for tuning into my frequency today. So today is a little bit of a different themed Facebook Live. I just wanted, with ANZAC Day tomorrow, I just wanted to help raise awareness for those soldiers, servicemen and women who have returned from either peacekeeping or battle zones or war zones or any kind of service and have suffering from PTSD. Especially those, like I have 4 or 5 clients in the clinic that I see who are returned service people who do suffer from PTSD. It's not just a mental thing. PTSD affects our body in all ways. So the way we look at things in the clinic here, emotions trump everything. And as we know, stress causes just about every medical disease known to man, except for those caused by bacteria and viruses, but that's because our immune systems are lowered by stress. So post-traumatic stress disorder is no different. People might hear about PTSD and think it's just flashbacks, they're just memories. It's not, it affects the body. And I want to talk to you about one particular client of mine who happens to be a very good friend of mine as well, and share a little bit about his story. For those of you on the Sunshine Coast, his story will be published in the Sunshine Coast Daily, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an insight in what it's like for returned service people, and it's almost like they get forgotten. So, you know, ANZAC Day is about remembering fallen soldiers. It's also about remembering those that are still here and giving those that are still here our support. So a friend of mine, Miles, he was sent to Rwanda as a 21-year-old to Rwanda in the peacekeeping mission back in the early 90s. Now, for those of you that don't know about what happened in Rwanda in the 90s, there was one of the world's greatest genocides. So that means mass murders of people. So about 500,000 Rwandans got killed during that. And I'm talking innocents, women, children, men, anybody. There was this big military battle between the Tutus and the Futsis or something. I hope that's correct, Miles. And the UN sent peacekeepers in maybe a little bit too late. Now, what Miles was sent there to do, I struggle to even comprehend what he would have gone through. So still to this day, in 2023, the Australian Defence Force still say that the Rwandan peacekeeping mission is their worst in history. So Miles got dumped into a country as a young 21-year-old peacekeeper where there was still civil war, where one of his main jobs was to provide support for other military people, but also for the Rwandans. It's actually turned into more about providing medical care and support to the Rwandans than anything else. There were millions and millions of refugees from this war. One of Miles's job was to clean the hospital, which was a morgue. So this poor young 21-year-old man is in the army, think he's there to support his country, to do well, and his job is to clean rotting flesh and blood and guts and gore from women, children and men who had been slaughtered by the militia. So that has haunted him for his whole life. So he was 21 at the time, he's now 51. So for 30 years, this has really haunted him. He has done so much work on himself to become less affected by that. But when I met him, he was impotent. He had immune system issues, he had anger issues, he could not control his emotions. He was a bit of a mess. So coming into the clinic with ANF and with my support and with the support of a few other people that he's been in contact with, he has managed to get most of those health issues under control. His anger is much more be able to deal with. But you know, the sad thing about Miles' story is he had to fund that himself. The DVA did not support him at all. So the DVA is the Department of Veterans Affairs. They are there to support veterans. There is 42,000 outstanding cases still with the DVA for people like Miles waiting to get support. So they don't get the support they need from the government. So it's up to us to support them. And the thing that upsets me a lot, and the thing that upset Miles a lot, was when the mask mandates came in a couple of years ago. You could imagine, Miles, the only things he had when he was 21 cleaning up this mess was a surgical mask and gloves, and he's in there cleaning. Now, if anybody of you has ever driven past roadkill, you know how much that stench is disgusting. Imagine times that by thousands of people rotting and having to clean that up. So when the mask mandates come in, Miles can't wear a mask because it puts him back in Rwanda. Do you think people understood that? Do you think people said, oh, hey, Miles, hey, notice you're not wearing a mask. Is everything okay? Are you all right? No, people screamed at him in the street. People spat at him. We went to an RSL for an event. People were screaming at him, put your fucking masks on. They had no insight and no care for him, knowing what that mask meant to him. So this is a very heavy topic, and Miles is not the only one. There are lots. There's a higher rate of suicide from the department, from return service people than there are anybody else. And there was a recent suicide from a friend of Miles who'd served in Afghanistan, in Iraq, who committed suicide last week. His suicide note blamed the Department of Veterans Affairs 100% because his claim was not looked at. Now, for anybody that knows how the NDIS works, the NDIS has case managers. So you just don't put your claim into the government and wait for them to sort it out. And there are companies that do manage people. The DVA don't do that. It's all up to you. Put your claim to the DVA, and the DVA will only recognise physiotherapists, doctors, and a very, very, very small amount of therapists. So for people like Miles, who have gotten help outside those Medicare regulated health professionals, he's out of pocket. The DVA didn't give him his pension. The DVA did not give him his gold card. He could not hold his job down. He was off on stress leave, so he wasn't getting paid, and nobody cared. It was up to him to have really good friends that banded around him to help him through that. Not everybody's as lucky as he is, and not everybody wants to get better like Miles does. But I just want, on ANZAC Eve, I want all of us to think about what it was like for those people. Yes, we lost a lot of loved ones, but what is it like for the people that have been to war or been a peacekeeper or been on deployment and come back and then just be forgotten? It happens to Vietnam veterans. Vietnam was one of the worst wars ever in terms of Americans went in and slaughtered children and women unarmed many times. And we have Vietnam vets here that come into the clinic who witnessed all of that, who had to kill children or the children would have killed them. Can you even imagine what that would be like? I've got returned women that come in here and they have been raped over and over and over again and then discharged from the Army or the Air Force because of that trauma and left. Could you imagine what it would be like? So these people literally give their lives to serve and protect us, and then we forget about them when they come back. So on this ANZAC Eve, I want you to, if you go to any of the services, go and hug the soldiers if they allow it. Thank them for their service. Tell them that you understand on some level what the trauma that they will be going through. And if something flippant happens to you tomorrow and you say, oh, it's going to give me PTSD, stop and think, will it really? PTSD is debilitating. It is horrific. We can't use these terms flippantly. People like Miles have had their lives ruined for doing what they thought was the best thing, and we forgot them. So tomorrow on ANZAC Day, remember those that have fallen, yes, but remember those that are still here. People like my grandfather went to World War II, survived, came back. His brother was a prisoner of war, survived, came back. They became alcoholics because nobody understood them. So on this ANZAC Eve, please have a thought for all these men and women who are serving their country to make sure you have the best life, but have been through traumas that are unimaginable. Just think about them. Give them a hug tomorrow. Wear your rosemary. Tell them that you thank them for their service. Thank them for their sacrifice, because you don't have to lose a body part or die to be heavily affected by this horrific war. So, yeah, Waddy, it is so very, very sad to hear about what these people go through. And I worked at the repatriation hospital in Melbourne as well, and, you know, just hearing it over and over and over again, some of the stories. And they're for the people that actually want to share. There are a lot of people there that suffer in silence. So thank you, Waddy, I know you're a magnificent nurse and I know you would listen. So I get so emotional when I think about all this stuff. So thank you for your service. Anyone watching that has been in the military in any sort, Miles, I love you, and my heart goes out to you and to anybody else suffering from PTSD. Thank you very much, everybody. Please have a lovely day off tomorrow and really give thanks to those that have served. Thank you.